Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Daniel Heffington, and I serve as communications manager for HSLDA's Generation Joshua. We are so glad to be back for another episode today, and I cannot wait for you guys to meet our guest today. Joining me is Bethany Potter. Welcome to the show, Bethany.
Hi.
We're going to get to know Bethany over a while as we're here streaming, and she has an incredible story because she's going to tell us how scuba diving has created a fun learning environment for her children and for other homeschool teens. She's a homeschool mom and a scuba diver, so that's amazing. As we jump into this story, please feel free as you're logging on. As always, if you have any questions for Bethany or if you have any questions for myself, drop those in the comments. I can see the comments and we'll get to those. Tell us where you're watching from. We have somebody monitoring those. So we'd love to hear from you and make this as interactive as possible. And we're going to save some time at the end specifically to be able to go over those questions. So Bethany, thanks again for talking with us today. Will you just kick us off by sharing a little about yourself, your family, your story as we get started?
Well, I have been homeschooling for over a decade now. Can't believe it's been that long. And we were in Louisiana homeschooling.
Okay.
And when my daughter has always loved the ocean forever. Like when she was little, she would refuse to get out of the water in Maine in March in the Atlantic Ocean. Like she'd be blue and refusing to get out of the water. She's always loved it. So as she got older, we always fed into that love. Everything was, ocean themed. We really did a lot of interest-led learning in that way. And we promised her that when she got old enough, we would let her get scuba certified. So once she hit 13, we found the only dive shop in the area because Louisiana is not exactly known for its scuba diving.
Right.
And we got her hooked in with the scuba dive teacher there and got her certified. And she loved it. And at the time, I really, really saw the utility of that as I was sitting through the lessons with her and stuff. The amount of different things that they deal with, from the math to the science that covers physics and chemistry and physiology and oceanography and all that stuff. So we really started leaning into that with her. And as time went on, it got harder being in Louisiana because every time we went to go do something, it was a trip. It was a schlep. Because we would have to go. Right. Yeah, we'd have to come all the way over here. It's like a 5-6 hour drive to the nearest place that was good for scuba diving.
Okay. Yeah.
Then 2 years ago now, oh my gosh, we lost our home to a hurricane.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, but that was, it ended up being a blessing in disguise because we ended up being moved over this way. A week before the hurricane happened, my brother happened to move to the area and we evacuated to him. So we ended up over here. And we had actually, yeah.
What year was that again?
That was 2001. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
21. It was Hurricane Ida. So we ended up over here, but I had previously hooked in with a dive shop here. One of their instructors was a homeschooler from Louisiana. That was how her mom had got her through high school. Was, look, you get this stuff done, I'll schlep you over to Destin and let you do this. So that's how she got her daughter through high school.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. So we had hooked up with her previously and had been doing things with them. So when we ended up being lost out of Louisiana and I realized we were going to be stuck here, I went to her name is Julia, and Anna, the owner of the dive shop, and I talked to them and I was like, look, you guys, this is an amazing thing, first of all, that has been awesome for my daughter, but also I can see the utility of it for other homeschoolers. This would be an awesome class to offer. And they really liked it because Julia, is a previous homeschooler, and Anna, when it comes to diving on the dive shop, a lot of the training is get them in, dunk them in the tank, make sure they can live when they're out in the water, get them out. Because that's the summer, you're getting a lot of people. And this is more of an in-depth, like actually really sharing their love of the diving world. So the owner was like, this is the class I've always dreamed of teaching. This is amazing.
Okay.
So she loved it, and it gave them something to do during the off season as well.
Let me ask you there. We lost just a little bit of that last part you were saying, but I think it's really key. So I don't want to skip over it. But it sounded like basically what you were saying was the teachers there felt like this was a different level of class than the students were usually engaging on. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
And was that just the level of interest, or was it the structure? Like was it just because they were homeschoolers and doing like fully engaging, or what was the difference?
It's the time that they're able to spend.
Okay.
Because usually you're trying to get them through. They do the way that the courses are usually set up is students will do online e-learning. Then they'll come in, they'll spend 2 days in the pool, and then they'll go and they'll spend 2 days on a boat diving. So It's a really short, like boom, 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 get them through. And with our class, they do the e-learning, then they come in and they do classroom work. And the teachers make sure like that they're actually understanding it before they move forward. And then they go and they do the little bit of the lesson, they go into the pool and they actually use those things in real life at that moment.
Cool. Okay. That's amazing. So, all right, cool. I just wanted to clarify that. So keep going. Tell us about the rest of your journey here.
So we got that. We talked to them and we were going through all the different things and how we could get kids interested. And one of the things I didn't realize about SCUBA certifications is that the American Council on Education has actually said that PADI, which is the certifying agency, that PADI certifications actually count as college credit.
That's amazing.
Yeah, as kids go through, they're able to actually be earning college credit and not just doing something that's fun. Like this is actually going towards something for them later as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. We have a comedian in the comments who said that SCUBA is truly immersive learning. So I love this energy. So let's keep this going in the comments. That's amazing. So incredible. So not only is it in full disclosure, I've always wanted to go scuba diving, never have. So, we might have to talk after this.
Yeah.
And I was homeschooled, so I hopefully, qualify. But it's an incredible activity. Like, I feel like who doesn't want to try scuba diving? I mean, unless you have a phobia or something, but like it seems like most teenagers would really want to. So how did you guys was there a journey to finding the audience or finding the community, or was it kind of like you opened the doors and they came running? Like, how did that work?
Well, it's a lot of Facebook,
Okay,
putting out a lot of stuff on Facebook, but we had brought this up to Julia. Let's see, the hurricane was at the end of August, beginning of September.
Yeah.
Came to her the end of September, beginning of October. We put information out in a bunch of the Facebook groups in that October. And on November 6th of 21, we had our first informational meeting and it was full of families. Like there was standing room only in the room. Yeah. And then in December, we started our first class.
That's incredible. Now, what, I have a ton of questions based on what you've just said, but before I dive into my follow-up questions, do you have anything else of, we basically got to how you guys got started, the fact that it counts for college credit. Is there anything else you want to share about kind of the story and where that has taken you before I pepper you with all of my questions that I want to ask?
Well, it's a month-long course. Just I'll give the pitch for the course.
Yeah, please do.
It's a month-long course, 4 weeks, 3 days a week. And the kids go from open water, they get their open water certification. Then depending on what month they come in, they either get their advanced or their adventure. There's a little bit of a difference in those two, but not much. And they get their nitrox certification, which is a different air mix that they have to do. So it's just more sciencey stuff. And then they get their rescue certification. So we take them from open water to rescue, and rescue is the last stop before you kind of make a decision on whether or not you want to go into it as a professional field. So they get a bunch of certifications during that time. And they get their emergency first responder, so that's CPR. They learn how to use the AFib machine. And we do community service. They go, depending again on what month they're there, we're either doing a beach cleanup or a pier cleanup or a dive to clean up stuff out of the water. We have people come in from, we've had U.S. Fish and Wildlife come in, University of West Florida Archaeology and their marine biology department have come in. The Destin Fort Walton Chamber of Commerce has come in. Ocean Strike Team, which is a nonprofit that does stuff for the ecology of the ocean. We've had all kinds of people come in and talk to the class about different things that they can do as far as not only helping the ocean, but as careers. Because one of the things that we're really invested in is how this can open up career paths for the kids. And there's a ton. I mean, we've had a ton of our kids come out of this going, oh, cool, this is, now I know that I have a path that I want to go down. So it's been really, really cool. And we've also had all kinds of people see what we're doing and really want to pour into it. We've had people who are photographers and videographers for National Geographic come and talk to the class. Last week, I took a group of the kids to the Naval Aviation Station in Pensacola, and they got to go see the hyperbaric chamber in action.
Oh my goodness!
So so we hooked in there with the military and the Navy, and they're really interested in what we're doing with the kids. So we've really been able to get for our students a lot of things that have allowed them to see a lot of different pathways that they could possibly take in their life.
So this is opening doors, not just great experience. It's like actually opening doors for them. Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, so can I ask you some of my questions? Absolutely. That I'm going to warn you in advance. Some of these are really basic, and some of these might be more informed. But I'm going to ask all of them because I'm basically a 5-year-old at heart. The first question I have is how deep are they going in this process? Because I know that can get really intense at deeper waters. What I'm assuming they don't start at the deepest depths, but how far?
No. So in recreational diving, you actually do have a floor that you can go to, which is 130 feet, I believe. So you can't go past that. And it is. And it's not something that we actually take our students to. They spend a lot of the time in the winter. We have natural springs here in Florida. So we go to Forest Springs and more Vortex Springs. And those are 30, 40 feet.
Sure.
And that's where they're doing a lot of their work. And then when the spring comes, if they want, they can do their deep dive, which takes them 60, 70 feet. And they can get that certification as well. So they're not going too terribly deep. I mean, it is deep, but it's not
let me tell you, that's all relative, because as somebody who's never scuba dived, the deep end of the pool is still the deep end, so it's we're talking 12, 15 feet and you guys are hanging out in 70 feet. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool. And that's actually one of the things that I love about this course is going that deep, doing those things, being able to keep themselves alive underwater.
Yeah.
It gives them such a sense of confidence. They're like, hey, this is really cool. And I can do this. I did that. I was down there and I did that. And it really gives them a boost and helps them feel confident in themselves and their bodies, because they're understanding how their body is working. Yeah. And they know that they have this knowledge that it's special, and they're able to use it and move forward with it, which helps them educationally too, because they understand that, hey, I learned this thing. It was actually important to my life, and it kept me alive. And so it's really helpful to them to understand how learning can actually help them in a real tangible way.
Right. It's there's a lot of reasons that study is important, but if study is actually keeping you alive, good motivation. That's amazing. Exactly. So on that note, because as you just referenced, they're talking, you're getting into their own biology and physics and science. What are some of the application, what are some of the topics, subjects that just this pursuit of scuba has brought up for your homeschool students?
So there's so much. In science, we do a lot of physics, in chemistry and physiology. They have to know a lot of laws. They have to know Boyle's law, Charles' law, Henry's law, Dalton's law. There are a bunch of these laws, and the way that, pressure has to do with volume, has to do with gases, and the way that gases interact with your body. They have to understand things like the oxygen mixes that we breathe in and how our body takes in oxygen and what happens as we come up in decompression and nitrogen bubbles and all of that kind of stuff. They have to learn that. So they get a really intimate understanding of their bodies, first of all. And second of all, gas laws, which is a huge deal, and understanding pressures. We take them through your atmospheres, at the surface. You're technically at 1 atmosphere, and then you go down, and at 33 feet, that's another atmosphere. So how much does the pressure change? And they have to do the math through that. And so there's a lot that goes there. And then they have to understand all their sinuses and their ears and their baritone. A lot of kids really start to understand that immediately, because you go down just 4 or 5 feet and you start to feel it in your ears.
Right.
So they immediately start getting a tangible understanding of the way that pressure affects their physical body. And so they have to go through and learn about their sinuses and their ears and, all that ENT stuff they have to learn. So there's a lot. There's circulatory system, the respiratory system. They have to learn about how medications have different effects on their body, and then how that has an effect at depth, because everything kind of gets amplified. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And then they also have to learn oceanography, because they're learning about tides and all of that kind of stuff, and the way that you go against currents. They're learning about marine biology. They're learning about conservation. We have people come in and talk to them about microplastics and stuff in the water and all of that. So they're getting a crap ton of science, and they don't even really realize it, because they're having fun. They're doing it diving,
That's incredible. Now, that's amazing. I feel, it feels like the only, topic it doesn't directly bridge into is possibly English, but you just referenced like a whole curriculum, and I mean, you got to read to study all of that, so English is kind of necessary right there. That's amazing. So you said marine biology, and that's obviously going to be, at least important for ocean diving, as well as, a really fun thing. I remember I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I was homeschooled, and the most memorable unit study we ever did, because I don't know if homeschoolers still do that today, is like a unit study, but back in the day, in the 90s, unit studies were where it was at. And we had our marine biology ocean unit study that took us like an entire year. And every time we learned something, we added it to this huge wall mural. So we covered the different levels of the ocean and the different, things. So what are some of the wildest things that you guys have seen on these trips or encountered, like in the ocean, as far as marine biology goes?
Well, not a lot of wild stuff, but one of the most memorable things. So we have here on the Panhandle this thing called UMA, or it's the Underwater Museum of Art. So they go out and they drop every 2 years. They drop an installation of like 5 or 6 statues.
No way.
And it's really, really cool. And it's an easy dive. Its floor is about 60 feet. So it's not like an intense dive. There's not a lot of current. It's pretty much right off the shore. You can see the shore from there. But while our students were out there last year, they got to see, I'm going to mess up the name of this, Kemp Ridley turtle, which is an endangered turtle that's like the size of a car. So they got to see that out there last year, and that was really, really cool, because not a lot of people get to see that.
That's incredible. Sea turtles are like the people who know me, not just from Facebook Live or something. I wear a sea turtle necklace almost all the time, and that's because like sea turtles like my favorite ocean creature. So that I would have been freaking out.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Have they seen any of our, and I, as somebody who also loves the ocean, I'm not villainizing sharks or anything like that, but have they encountered any of the more spooky, dangerous creatures out there?
Well, they've seen sharks. Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
resident sharks. Like we have some scuba or not scuba snorkel reefs that they've
Okay.
set up off the shore here, so you can do what we call a shore dive. So you can walk
Yep.
in and
Yep.
dive to it. And a couple of the reefs have resident nursing sharks, or you go out. They've seen some bull sharks. We actually 2 years ago at a pier cleanup, there was a big old tiger shark out there swimming
Ooh, wow.
around. Yeah. So yeah, you see sharks, but when you're diving, they don't see you as food really, because you're just kind
Uh-huh.
of part of the fauna at that
Well,
point. They're really not looking to get at you.
part of my journey, if I come down and do a class, is going to be believing that. But but I'm sure you have the resources to equip me. That's amazing. So let me just kind of ask you a couple of other kind of branches of this topic. You mentioned that you're seeing these students, you know, explore the confidence that comes with not just the specific subject matter, but the sense of accomplishment. If I just did this, I can keep myself alive and help keep my friends alive at depths under the ocean. How have you seen that? As much as you might have to share, like impact their outlook on like just the teenage years, which like confidence is a huge thing. I work with HSLDA's Generation Joshua. I work with teenagers all over the country, and I just I remember from way back in my teen years and the teens that I work with today, it's like that's a huge deal if you have something that's building into the confidence in all the questions and pressures that arise when you're a teenager.
Yeah, it honestly, as much as I can sing the praises all day long of all of the academic
Yeah.
benefits of scuba diving, it doesn't touch the mental benefits, honestly.
Wow.
One of my favorite things is we do what's called a Discover Scuba. So before a student signs up, we tell, before their parents write the check,
Yeah.
we tell them, you need to come and get in the pool, and we're going to put the gear on your kid, and we're going to get them underwater. Because some people, honestly, as much as they want it, they can't get past that mental block. They put their face under the water, they take a breath off the
Sure.
regulator, and they're like, nope, not for me. We've had
Sure.
a few people that have stood right up and been like, no, thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So they come and they do that. And I kid you not, one of the best things is you see them come up out of the water and they have stars in their eyes. They're like, oh my gosh, my life just changed. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. This is amazing. And you see that moment where they're like, they find a thing. And a lot of parents appreciate that because they're like, my kid is sitting in their room playing Xbox. They're not impassioned about anything. They're not trying to pour into anything. They have nothing that they love. And when their kid comes up with, these stars in their eyes, they're like, ah, they found their thing. They found
Yeah.
something to get them moving again, to get them going again. And so that in and of itself, giving the kids this thing, this reason why, this motivation in and of itself is a huge deal. And then the confidence that it builds is just astounding. My daughter, Aubin, it was the one who started all of this. She had gone through something fairly traumatic a few years ago, and it caused a lot of anxiety. That was really hard to get over. But the diving, she'll tell you that the diving was the thing. I was really worried at first because she was having some anxiety attacks and stuff. And I was worried, okay, great. We're going to go down to depth and she's going to freak out. And she says, Mama, honestly, it's the only place that I'm calm. I'm the most calm there because all I'm worried about is my breathing and looking at what's around me. You just hear that.
It's very it sounds like meditative. It sounds like it's very meditative and very, I mean, people turn on ocean noises to sometimes center or get calm. That's amazing.
So she loved that. And then I've watched, we've had kids come through with learning disabilities,
Mhm.
kids on the spectrum. We've had kids who had recently lost family members.
Wow.
And all of them found this love for diving that just, it helped them process and get through, and it gave them something to love. And as they go forward through the course, the last class that they take is called rescue diving. And rescue diving is something where the kids have to step outside of themselves and pay attention to everyone around them, because
Yeah.
that's what it's about. It's about seeing that your buddy is in distress. How do you help your buddy in distress? Those type of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things, we live in a day and age that's very self-centered, very
Sure.
focused on you, which it
Myopic.
ends up
Yeah.
causing a lot of anxiety in our kids,
Mhm.
because you can only focus on yourself so much, right? And
Right.
when you take them out of themselves and you make them
Yeah.
responsible for somebody else, not only are they starting to focus outside of themselves, but they have this sense of, wow, I can take care of other people. I can do
Yeah.
that. I have this confidence that I can be at 60 feet and I can save someone's life. I have
Yeah.
the
Wow.
toolkit to save someone's life. And it's amazing to see the kids just kind of blossom. You watch these quiet, shy kids at the beginning of the class. By the end of the class, they have it's only 4 weeks, but in
Right.
4 weeks' time, you have a completely different child on your hands. And it's beautiful. And I've had so many parents come to me and tell me, my kid is a whole different person. Thank you so
That
much. It pulled them out of their moody teenager. It pulled, that type of thing.
that is so powerful. That's like a whole. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and whenever I have something that's like, she can tell I'm trying to get a point across, she'll be like, "Are you doing a life lesson?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what you just told me it's a whole life lesson." Like that. That's uh, you're tapping into things that are much deeper, no pun intended, than scuba diving. You're that's foundational, and
Yeah,
you're totally right. Like, that the ability to say, not only can I survive, but I can help other people. And then your focus isn't just, on yourself. All of that's very powerful and beautiful. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Um, we have a question in the comments, and as we're not going to go incredibly longer, but as we're turning the corner here, if you guys are listening and you have questions or you have comments, I'm going to get to some of the ones that are already there, but please drop more in. I am loving this. I hope you guys are loving it as much as me, and I promise to not be the only one asking questions, because I could go on for a long time. But one of the questions we have already is, what age can students start this at? Like, what's the minimum threshold?
so our class is going to be 12 plus, and that just
Okay.
has to do with depth limit.
Yeah.
So your kids can actually start doing what they call a bubble maker class at 10, but that's outside of sciences, because we
Okay.
want to be able to take a class of kids from 12 to 17 and actually get some depth on them, as opposed to the younger bracket. So
Yep.
12 is when we start, and then that goes up. We had a kid who had graduated the year, like the end of the previous year, but his brother was also doing it. So mom
Yeah.
kind of wanted to get them both in. So we had someone who was 19. So if
Yeah.
we can fudge it, but we're
Sure.
pretty much to senior year, like sixth grade to
Yeah.
senior year, but 12 to senior year.
I love that. That's great. Um, do you have anything to say to parents watching or students watching, either live or later as this gets posted, either about trying scuba in particular, or just trying like the new activities that you're talking about? You're talking about that like light bulb moment of, oh, I found my thing, and I think there's so many great things out there, but I think sometimes we probably put ourselves in a box where it's like, okay, are you sports? Are you music? Are you art? Uh, what else is there? And it's like,
Yeah.
what would you say to people who maybe haven't found the thing that sparks that passion for their student or themselves?
My biggest thing would be look around, first of all, in your Facebook groups, because it's incredibly valuable to look at all the events and all the things going on. You never know what you're going to find. And, just bargain with your kids. Be like, look, come do this one time. If you hate it, then we won't do it again. And even then, they might shock themselves, honestly. My younger daughter, for example, had less than no interest in diving, like zero interest in diving. She was like, that's Aubyn's thing. No, thank you. There's too much math and science there. I'm not remotely interested. And then she had to be dragged along to the first class to sit through it. And at the end of it, she's like, Mama, can I do it next time, please? And so she got into it, and she hasn't been loving it. She's like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. Yeah. But she just went to the pier dive last week. She's my artist. And she went to the pier dive last week, came up with just, Mom, that was beautiful. Oh my gosh. And because she's my artist, the first thing she did, we got in the car, she pulled out her iPad, pulled up Procreate, and spent the next 2 hours drawing, and came out with this beautiful artwork. So you might not even know what something that doesn't seem like it would necessarily inspire your child will end up totally veering into their area of something that inspires them.
Because that's so valid and true, because it's like you can take that principle anywhere you want, but even with the ocean or underneath the water in particular, what I forget the statistic, but so much of our planet is actually under the water. And it's like you're people get all excited about space, and space is awesome, but like there's a whole world in our world that you are not familiar with. Like you may have been there, you may have done something, but it's like, if you're looking for that inspiration, that creativity, sounds like that would be the place to get it.
Yeah, it was, she had gone down with a friend, and they got video of her, of this moment that really inspired her. And I showed her the video later, and she's like, Mom, doesn't even touch it. She's like, that video doesn't even touch it. So it's, you think, I know what it looks like. I watched Shark Week, but exactly.
The video never does. I don't know. That's just, video is beautiful, but somehow just being there is so different. So what was this like for you as a parent? Were you a hard sell on this initially, or were you like gung-ho from the beginning? Because, like as a parent, you're like, like for me, I'm like, I've never scuba dived. Did you have a background in it, or was this like?
No, I'm actually, I am, I'm disabled, and I can't go for my specific things.
Yeah.
So I have always wanted to, but
you've been giving them this opportunity.
Yeah. So Aubyn having the passion for the ocean that she did, there was no way I was going to tell her no. And so it wasn't a hard sell. The hardest sell was, couldn't have picked a flippin' less expensive sport, please.
Yeah. What happened to soccer? Like. Right.
But I don't know though. I say that, and then I look at all of my friends who have like kids in sports or dance, and I'm like, how much on that? Like, ooh, dang,
I know. You're like, we'll take the flippers. That's great. This is incredible. I'm going to check in with the audience real quick. We have a couple of questions here. Somebody who seems to have context for your story says to ask about Aubyn leading a shore dive for an entire class by herself. Are we seeing some leadership coming out here?
Yes. We actually, so not to brag on my kids.
Please brag on your kid. But, I'm pro bragging on your kid.
So Aubyn has been so she's been the teacher's assistant through this whole class. It's been an amazing opportunity for her, and she has so impressed the dive shop that they have actually, not only have they taken her in through the summer, and she gets to do an internship with them, so she's on the boat all day, every day doing dives and taking people down. But she also, they have modeled a class around her that once you're done with Science Cs, your kids really love it and think that they might want to go down a professional route. they will come under Aubyn's tutelage, and she will teach them how to do the teacher's assistant and the junior dive master stuff. So she'll teach them how to be an apprentice, basically.
That's so cool.
So they modeled that whole thing around her. And last month, we planned a shore dive that she planned and executed all on her own. No adults, no anything. She got the kids together and took them, and the parents trusted her to take them out. So it has been really good for her in that way, because it's really helped her and her confidence. You know, she's like, I'm pretty bad, but like I can do this, and I can take these kids down, and I can run this. And there's one of the parents who he's ex-military, ex-special forces guy. He actually went diving with them that day. And it was kind of sketchy. It was really, the waves were really bad, even though it was a shore dive. And he came up and he was like, she's amazing. She's amazing. Incredible. And, you know, she kept her cool under pressure. Like, that was under pressure, and you wouldn't have ever known it on her face. Like, she had it. So she is absolutely the epitome of what the confidence and the leadership that it can instill. I mean, this really can give your kid a lot as far as their confidence and their leadership skills.
That is so cool. That is incredible. Yeah. Before we kind of before we get off of here, I want to leave people with action steps of, like, if they want to learn more about this specific class, or, you know, what your journey, where they can go. But before we kind of do that, do you have anything else that you would want to leave the audience with, or any other thing we haven't tapped on yet before we kind of sign off?
Yeah. There were two things that I just wanted to tap into. One was, one of the things that I love about this class is that we're not ideologically driven. So much of the homeschool community is bifurcated, right? Like, you have secular homeschoolers, and you have, you know, religious homeschoolers, and then you have, you know, classical homeschoolers and unschoolers. And this class brings them all together. Like, we have all the things, all the people, and there's not that rift there, because there's a lot of times, like, I look on all the homeschool pages right now in our area, the secular homeschoolers get together and they do their thing. And then the religious homeschoolers get together and they do their thing. And you have these groups that, even though they have so much in common, right? They never meet. So one of the things I really love about this class is we have them all over the board, and they come together, and they really, like, one of my kids' good friends that they met at this class, totally in the secular homeschooling group. Had it not been for this class, we would have never met up with them. And we've got a Muslim homeschooler that's looking to come this next year. We've got, you know, the classical people. We've got people who do what's called Flex here in Florida, which is basically the public school online. So we've got all of the things. We even actually there's a charter school down the Panhandle that has given one of their students permission to take the month off this winter to come be with us.
That's beautiful.
So we've got, like, a really cool amalgamation of kids who are coming together doing this, which is amazing. And I really love that.
You're not only teaching kids great stuff, you're helping to break down barriers and cultural divides, and we always need more of that. That's amazing.
We love that. And then the other thing that I just wanted to say to all of the parents, because I have so many parents that reach out to me and are like, how do I get something like this in my area? How do I do this? Anything, whether it be SCUBA or anything else, if you see a utility of it for the homeschooling community, go to the business, talk to the people. We're an untapped commodity for these businesses. And there are a lot of things that, like, anything that would be geared towards kids, those businesses aren't doing anything during the weekdays anyways. Go to them and tell them, look, I can bring you a group of people. I can guarantee you this extra business. And they're gonna bite. But you have to, as a parent, you have to go and put that forward. You can't just say, why isn't there anything like this in my area? You've got to make it happen.
Which takes effort. It takes so much
effort. Like, I know that when I post something, because I have to be part of all these groups and I have to go through and post, I know that the next 72 hours of my life is going to be nothing but responding to people on Facebook. But it's worth it. It gets it moving and it gets it going. And if you want it to be available for your kid, it can be, but you're going to have to move a few mountains here. But it won't happen.
I think that's really valuable for everyone to hear. And, you know, it's like, obviously you can't do everything all the time, but like you've opened doors for not only your students, but for I don't know how many, but, you know, students from all over the place, because you're willing to go out there and reply to the comments and send some DMs and have a meeting, you know, with a business owner or something like that. So I hope that's inspirational. And I hope for the people watching that's a good reminder of, like, you know, don't just kind of sit back and complain and be like, why, you know, like you said, why isn't this existing? Well, maybe you're supposed to help make it exist. And there you go. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Bethany. This is inspiring. I think that this is going to be great. You might be hopefully you're hearing from a lot of people. You might be hearing from people who live nowhere near you, but, you know, maybe you can at least inspire them. Yeah, you might inspire them and give them some good tips for getting something similar going in their area. Or maybe we'll all just, like me, maybe we'll all just take a trip down and come see you.
Come visit. We've had people from Tennessee. We've got people from New York. We've got people from Seattle coming. They come and they come and they spend the month, because it's our off season here in the Panhandle. So you can get Airbnbs for really cheap, and they just write it off as a homeschool expense.
There you go. So on that note, if people want to learn more about you, and what is the actual name of your class? Your
Science C is the name of the class.
Science C. I love that. And am I correct that it's a partnership with is it Emerald Coast Scuba? Is that what it is?
Yes, Emerald Coast Scuba runs the class.
So Science C.
They're the ones who run all of it. I'm just the homeschool mama that gets things out to the community.
But we're friends with you now, so this is who we want. Yeah, we want to connect with you. You're our gatekeeper here. So this is great. So to learn more, we're going to drop a YouTube link in the comments, and you guys can follow this. It's going to kind of show you about the program and what you can do. But then we're also going to give you a website, which is divedestin.net. Go to divedestin.net and you'll be able to learn more about what Bethany's doing, and Science C and Emerald Coast Scuba, and how you might be able to plug in. And then the other thing that I'll say is that, you know, to all the parents out there, if you want to give your homeschool student a chance to shine and pursue their passions, you can learn about any type of electives or extracurricular activities through an article series that we have. It's called Choosing High School Extracurriculars. We're going to link that in the comments as well. And as always, at HSLDA, this is the kind of stuff we love to talk about. This is the world we live in, is making homeschooling possible. And you guys are doing an amazing job of that. So if you're not a member of HSLDA, we'd love to have you join us. We like Bethany was saying, we kind of see the whole nexus of all types of homeschoolers everywhere. And we're always trying to break down those barriers and welcome everybody in. So we'd love for you to join the HSLDA family. And Bethany, I'm going to give you a chance. If there's anything else you'd like to say, please do, and we'll sign off.
Come visit us in Destin. We'd love to have you guys. It's a really cool place to spend a month.
Sounds incredible. Well, Bethany, thanks again. Thanks to everybody who joined us. We love when you guys tune in, and we'll be back soon. Bye.